And good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. Andy here with In South Florida, and we are here again as we do every week on Wednesday, sometimes Thursday, with Michelle and Maribel from Hasbun Mendoza Law Firm. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Andy. Good morning, guys.
Good morning,
You guys
everyone.
look beautiful this morning,
Thank
as
you.
always.
Thank you very much. You look very handsome too.
You must be on the way to court this morning.
I am.
Yes, she
Yes,
is.
I am.
Wow.
I am.
So, folks, we welcome you to our broadcast. We do this every week on Wednesdays. Welcome, Annie. Welcome, Vanessa. Welcome, everybody. Wow. We got a crowd already here in the morning. There you go. Mm-hmm. So, last week we talked about Valentine's, and oh my God, so many people got engaged and so many rings were given. And now questions have been coming in about prenups.
That's exactly right.
Wow. What do you need to know about prenuptial agreements? Pay attention if you got engaged last week or if you're on the course, because this is something that's really
Very important.
Very important, right?
Absolutely.
So why do I need a prenup?
Well, you want to be able to protect your assets. There's some people that are walking into a
Okay.
marriage with a lot of assets, with inheritance, with things that they want to be able to protect, and they want to be able to make sure that in the unlikely event, hopefully, that you don't end up in a divorce, that those assets are protected.
Yeah, so basically what the prenup is for is that your purpose is there are certain things that happen in the event unfortunately of a divorce, and what you are doing is you're entering into an agreement, a contract with your soon-to-be spouse to basically say that law in the state of Florida where everything gets divided a certain way, where I have certain support obligations, are not going to apply. What will apply is what is in this document. So if you want to have some type of control as to the outcome in the event of a divorce, this is basically it. This will protect those assets. This will protect, support obligations in terms of alimony and things of that nature.
How do you go from engagement, ring, proposal, I do, to the conversation of prenup?
Actually, I think a good segue for a lot of people, because sometimes, they come to us and they're like, I want this. I know it's embarrassing. I don't know how, are they going to get upset?
I mean, I tell you, I love you, and now I'm asking for a prenup.
I know,
Right.
but you know what? A lot of people, basically, the segue for them is, I've been divorced before,
Right.
and I thought it was going to be forever. I don't want to have to finish it on a sour note with the litigated divorce. I don't want to have to go through that.
Smart.
So that's the segue. Another segue is I do have children that I want to protect.
Smart.
So I want to enter into this agreement, not for me, and not because I don't think I'm going to get I don't think I might get a divorce, but my kids, I'm thinking about them, or my friends are telling me about it. So there is ways that you can approach this, and I think a lot of times too, they come to us and they say, well, they've hired an attorney, or can you reach out to them and to their attorney, and can you propose, and can you kind of, so it really depends on, what the individuals have gone through, what they have talked about, but a lot of times, and I think the mindset of people has changed a lot. I think it's more acceptable.
It's more acceptable now.
I think a lot of people appreciate it, and many times we have asset protection and exposure to support on both sides. So
Right.
basically both of the individuals are going in with some type of concerns that are being addressed. And remember that it's not necessarily all one-sided, because an individual can basically come and say, listen, I want to protect all these assets. I want to protect my business that I had before I met you. But in the agreement, I'm going to make sure that I take care of you. So if our marriage lasts 5 years, I'm going to make sure you get this. If it lasts 10 years, I'm going to make... So the other person also has a sense of, wow, so in the event it doesn't work out for whatever reason, he wants to, or she wants to look out for me. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing.
Right,
I think
right.
quite the contrary, right?
And another thing is that we're talking about asset protection, but invariably it always happens where there's one party who is saving money and is very responsible financially, and then there's the other party that isn't like that. And somehow
so why are you kind of shifting this way when you say things like that?
Not that I'm like it's a subliminal message,
This is the
but
second time, Michelle.
but
I love these ladies. Okay.
so
Folks, if you're just tuning in, If you just tune in,
She is my partner, and we are friends.
and here within South Florida, we're doing another.
We actually have an agreement together.
We do. Michelle is my business wife.
That's exactly right.
Another live stream here with Michelle and Maribel from Hasbun and Mendoza. And welcome to the broadcast. We do this every single week. Welcome Felix, Vinny, Nelly. I saw a bunch of people coming in there, Julia. So if you know anybody that's on the path, share this broadcast if you're watching us live, and you can tune in. And of course, you can always contact Maribel and Michelle, and they'll be able to answer your questions. Why?
But wait, let me finish telling you.
Okay.
So, if there's somebody like me who likes to spend money,
yes,
okay,
yes.
and there's somebody like her that likes to
be conservative,
yes. The prenuptial agreement will actually help with that, because you could always tailor the agreement to say whatever debts that are acquired, that you had from before, obviously are mine, and whatever debts are hers. And if there's anything that's coming into the marriage that you're incurring, that's going to be your responsibility as well. So not only can you protect your assets, you could also protect your credit, and you could also protect your inability. You're not going to accept their debt during the marriage.
So we just covered prenups and why I need a prenup, and from a negative turning into a positive and actually helping the partner in their relationship. Next question, are prenups valid? And are they valid in Florida? Are they valid all over the country? How about outside the country?
Yes, prenups are valid as long as certain requirements are met. So
okay.
The basic requirements are, and very important requirements are, financial disclosure. So once a person is presented with an agreement, it's for us, what we do is we actually attach a very detailed financial statement that basically is a summary of assets and liabilities, and also income for the parties, because right there that shows that other person or the people that are signing this contract waived or agreed to forego certain things with full knowledge.
Excuse me.
So one thing that you need is full financial disclosure. And then another thing that you need is to make sure that that person is signing that agreement free with that knowledge and freely, voluntarily, without undue force or coercion. And one of the things that they look at, and Michelle and I are always talking about time frame. One of the things that you look at is you don't want to give a prenup or start talking about a prenup with your soon-to-be husband or wife days, or maybe even depending months before the ceremony, because then in the future that person can say, I was under coercion, I was under pressure.
Wow.
The ceremony was around the corner, my relatives were already coming in, I didn't do it freely and voluntarily. So Michelle and I always talk about how much time needs to pass before those individuals marry. And we always discuss this, and we basically say it really depends. It depends. Is it a civil ceremony where if you need to, and we're still negotiating the terms of the contract, can you delay that? Is it a very elaborate wedding where you have relatives coming in, you have a banquet hall, invitations have gone out, then maybe there's not that much free will to say, I don't want to sign it now, because now that person's under pressure to sign that contract, so that wedding goes through. Thousands of dollars that have been paid for banquet halls don't go down the drain. So all of those things, you need full financial information regarding all assets, liabilities, and income, and then you also need it to be voluntary. You need the other person to be informed. It's a case-by-case basis, but that is generally what needs to happen in order for a prenup to be valid.
And what we recommend is, if you are contemplating entering into a prenuptial agreement, the sooner you start talking about it with your soon-to-be spouse, the better. Because one of the things that you could argue is, yes, we signed it today and we're going to get married in 3 months, but we've been contemplating that. We've been talking about it. We've lived together. She's known what my finances have been. I've known what her finances have been. Even though it's a short period of time, from the time that we signed the agreement to the time that we got married, we have been engaged for 2 years, as an example. And for those 2 years, for a year and a half, we've been seriously sitting down talking about the prenuptial agreement. That goes to show that it didn't just come out of out of the blue, that they've been thinking about it, that they've always tried to think about what the terms are, they wanted to negotiate it, and it doesn't come as a surprise.
And I've heard you both say on numerous times now that we have a question here, or we have a comment. I think people should discuss that even before getting engaged.
Yes, I agree with
That's
that.
a good point.
Yes.
I've heard you say many times, this is a contract. This is like a contract.
It's legal.
Mm-hmm.
This is a legal binding document. And do most people, they take that course, they talk about it before, or they talk about it, or they hash out details once that they come over to you guys and they seek the advice of an attorney?
It's about 50-50.
I think
About
we've had,
50-50?
yeah.
Okay.
It typically it depends on the individual, and it depends on the history, what they've gone through. Typically, if this is a second
Right,
marriage,
of course.
where there
Right.
was maybe a divorce. That's something that they've talked about from day one. But like the individual suggests that is chiming in, the earlier you speak about wanting to enter into a prenup, the better that it is.
Are prenups more common with second and third, fourth marriages as they are two 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds crazily in love?
I think
I think
that
so.
maybe in the beginning for me,
Okay.
I thought that was the case, but I think now
now they're not getting married that young.
right.
I think our culture is postponing marriage. Some people don't even get married.
True fact.
Right.
True fact.
Yeah.
So
You talked about the motivation of the parties being to protect the children from prior. I can't understand, Annie. I can't understand what the question is. Can
it's a
you read
question
it?
from Annie. She wants to know about the motivation of the parties, and that just went off screen.
Yes, which is awesome.
So you see the
So
questions
in
there.
terms of any references to the children, one of the things that you cannot put into this contract that we call a prenup is terms regarding child support or time sharing with the children or whatnot. That is something that doesn't happen. But in
Right.
terms of consideration for the children, I was talking about that in terms of a segue to broaching the subject of wanting a prenup. Basically, you're saying, look, I have children, I have assets that I would like my children to
Right.
have and to inherit, and I want to make sure that any improvements, if I sell those assets during our marriage, that they're still going to go to the children. So in other words, you can use the children to explain, because it's a lot of times it's the reality to explain
Right.
why
Of
you
course,
want a
of course,
prenup.
of course.
And another thing is there are certain provisions that you can include in a prenup where you are waiving. In other words, you're saying, I don't want to be deemed in line in the event that this person, my spouse, passes away. So therefore, that the heirs will be first in line will be their children. So it's good for asset protection in terms of the children, and second of all, you can actually waive what we call elective shares and things like that, where the spouse is going to stand first in line, for example, in the state of Florida, based on statutory law, right? But you can enter into this contract to say, I don't want that right, and instead it's going to be as if I'm not married, and instead the ones that are going to stand first in line are the children of my partner. So in that sense, children's your interest for children or children considerations would come into play, but not in terms of child support or time sharing. Those things, remember, we've talked about before, it's always best interest of the children and what's going on at the time. So you can't contemplate, or it's not.
You can't foresee what's going to happen in the
You
future.
can't foresee. So that leads us to the next question, which was, what purpose does a prenup serve? Can you have items in there like, well, if I play the lotto, for example, and I win the lotto, it's going to be mine. Or right now the two parties have a job and they're working. If tomorrow I stop working, what's going to happen then? I mean, are there certain things that belong in a prenup?
Yes. Well, you've brought up a couple of things. For example, income. Income of a person in the state of Florida, and prior podcast, I've said and I've explained to you that once you get married, up until the time that petition is filed, typically every dollar that you earn, half of that is your spouse's,
Right.
right? But in a prenup, for example, you can say, my income during the marriage will be mine.
Wow.
So you could, that's what I'm telling you, you can contract away or certain rights that you would have that the state of Florida would apply. In this
Wow,
contract,
okay.
you can basically say that's not going to be the case. You can also say, for example, I have this house, or I have money and I'm going to buy this house. If I buy it solely in my name, even though we're married in the state of Florida at the time of the divorce, because it's purchased during the marriage, typically that would be divided. The starting point,
right.
depending on the factors,
There's a presumption of
right,
that.
is 50-50. Well, in this contract, you can say, if I title it in his or her name, that's going to trump everything else, because that shows our intention. And because we entered into this contract, we are making a selection to not allow that law to apply. Instead, this contract's going to apply. And by the terms of this contract, if I purchase something and just leave it in my name, that means if we do get a divorce,
It's mine.
it's mine.
Wow. Wow.
So-
You could be, and that also goes to hand in hand with, for those people that are being presented with a prenuptial agreement, it is extremely important to go ahead and talk to an attorney who
course.
practices
Well,
family law,
yeah, sure.
because you need to know what the differences are between what the law is without a prenuptial agreement, what am I entitled to if I were to get married and then get divorced without a prenuptial agreement, and what the law is with a prenuptial agreement.
Wow.
So you know, entering into that agreement, I'm signing this agreement understanding that had this agreement not existed, I would be entitled to this,
These are
this,
the
this,
laws,
and this.
right.
And it's very important that who don't just go blindly and say, "Fulanita, no te preocupes, everything is going to be fine." Always seek the assistance of an attorney.
Wow. A lot goes into a prenup.
Yes.
Folks, if you're just tuning in, my name is Andy within South Florida. We are here with Maribel and Michelle, Hasbun and Mendoza law firm, a specialist in family law. And we're talking about prenups. If you're just joining in, you can catch from the beginning. We also welcome questions on the broadcast as well. Any difference in prenups between husbands and wives? Are they both the same? Are they equal?
Well, it depends. It doesn't matter the gender. It doesn't matter the
Okay.
spouse. What
Okay.
matters is what we're protecting. What matters is
Okay.
what are we trying? What is the purpose of that prenuptial agreement?
Okay.
You know, there's some people that are walking in with a lot of money. They're coming in with a lot of properties, and you know, the law is clear. When you have premarital properties, whatever appreciates during the marriage, if there's no prenuptial agreement, can be subject to it being marital in nature. So there are things, depending on who has what and who's trying to protect what, that's the whole purpose of the prenuptial agreement.
So a prenup is not just a form with fields that you fill in.
Oh, no.
It can be custom tailored.
Absolutely.
No,
it has to be.
It has to be
It has to be
custom-tailored.
custom tailored.
Right. To be able to maximize the protection that you want, that's what you're there
Right,
for.
because in that prenup, depending on you and what you own at the time that you're coming into this marriage, like Michelle said, even though you had this asset or you owned this business before you married this person, that does not mean that during the marriage that person is not entitled to an interest in that property or that business. Quite the contrary, because now in the state of Florida, whatever in earnings you have and you've invested in this house or you've invested, in this property or in this business, your efforts are marital. Everything that you do during the marriage, your effort, that's marital.
Right.
So they've contributed, investment decisions. They've moved money from one account to another.
Sure.
That was done during the marriage.
Right.
I need half of that. So all those things you would address and you would protect. Also, obviously, if there are children and you have considerations regarding children for either side, you can put in there depending, this is our intention, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen with my estate, despite the marriage. And then you can also make provisions for each other. There's also, for example, during the marriage, if you give each other gifts, I gave you this gift, and then at the time of the divorce, guess what? That's going to get divided 50-50. But the gift,
or you have to give it back to me.
No, it gets divided 50-50.
Right. Let's say I buy you a Rolex during the marriage.
Right.
The money that I used to buy the Rolex
is our money.
So you wear it, but half of that is mine.
So your inclination is, wait a minute.
You gave it to me.
This is a
was
gift.
You gave it to me.
Sure.
Right.
No, that gift is going to get divided 50-50. So this prenup, for example, will say any gifts made during the marriage will remain that that person's property,
Right.
so
Of
that
course.
you have that. Well, you say, of course, but that's not the
No,
law.
but
That's not the law.
for the average person, that would be the definition of a gift, right?
Right.
But
I
that's
don't
not
want to
what-
give you a gift and ask for it back.
Yes, but you see
But
that.
that's not what the law in state of Florida is without a prenuptial agreement.
Right.
There's some prenuptial agreements that they specify if it is a gift that is gender specific. In other words, if you give me pearl
Oh.
earrings, the intent was for me to have them because I'm wearing the
it's a
pearl
pearl
earrings.
earrings, right.
But if I give you a piece of art that is gender neutral,
It's going up on the wall.
right?
Yeah.
It could very well be not, depending what the prenuptial says, it could be
So
up to
you
grabs.
you mentioned in Florida, are prenups only valid by state?
Well, we would have provisions in that contract regarding where it's enforceable. But typically, you would say,
Interesting.
it's going to be enforceable, wherever the parties are last residing, wherever the divorce is going to be, because it's a contract and it's our right to contract, and that has to be respected. There always should be a provision in there indicating while it was drafted or entered into in the state of Florida, the intention is that this is going to be binding. Anywhere that the parties ultimately do decide to
That's
have.
I'm sorry, Mari. Annie's asking a question that is one of my favorite things to do. Can the signing of the agreement be videotaped to ensure that it was done voluntarily?
Great idea, Annie.
What we do is we have court reporters to
signing
come in, and we
ceremony.
have a signing ceremony where we sit and we ask a specific group of questions. Typically, what I do with the client is beforehand, I will meet with the client one final time, have the client review the prenuptial agreement one final time to make sure that he or she has all their questions answered, make sure that they understand what they're signing, and that the other party with their attorney does the same thing. And then once we sit down in the court with the court reporter, we go through the questions. Are you signing this freely and voluntarily? Have you taken any drugs in the last 24 to 48 hours?
Wow.
Are you under any type of influence of alcohol, drugs, prescribed or non-prescribed, that would preclude you from being able to prevent you from being able to sign this freely and voluntarily? Have you had the opportunity to talk to your attorney fully at length, have him or her explain? You do all these things to try to add a protection of layers
At the end. Right.
at the end to make sure that in the future that person can't try to come back and try to set aside the agreement.
Right. So then what we would do is we have not only that signed agreement and whatever attachments, financial documents or disclosures, but then you also have the transcript, the record of that day
With the
that
questions asked.
those individuals in front, typically with the attorney's presence, saying, did you review all the terms? Are you sure? So in the future, let's fast forward 15, 20 years down the line, this person's trying to say, Judge, I didn't know what I was signing, or I didn't get an opportunity to review it. I didn't know. And then you say, wait, Judge, wait. There is a contract that speaks for itself, but in addition to that, there was a signing ceremony, a representation of counsel, where they acknowledged under oath they signed it freely and voluntarily. So obviously, like Michelle says, a layer of protection. So we do have signing ceremonies that adds that layer of protection.
You mentioned attorneys. Are prenups, do they have to be done with two attorneys, or can a couple just happily put together a contract and come to you and say, we both agreed to this and we would like to enter into a prenup?
Well, we can't represent both parties. It's a conflict
You
of
cannot
interest.
represent
We cannot.
both parties.
We cannot.
Interesting. Very
It is
interesting.
not necessary to have an attorney. Obviously, we highly recommend it for the protection
Okay.
of the prenuptial agreement, because like Mari says, it's kind of hard in the future to say, I didn't know what I was signing, if you had an attorney there to represent you.
So if you're representing the spouse, for example, the wife, and the husband says, I'm cool with this,
Yeah.
you always advise them, you should get an attorney.
The prenuptial agreement will say it like in 20 different places.
Did he refused to get an attorney?
Right,
Or
he chose to do that freely and
he
voluntarily.
chose to do that on his own.
Right.
Okay.
But obviously, I always prefer, and we always prefer, for there to be an
Absolutely.
attorney
Of course,
on the
of
other
course,
side.
It's a way to
because
protect the
that
agreement.
makes that agreement that much stronger.
Right.
That person can't later say, I didn't know what I was signing. I didn't have.
Sure.
You know,
Because
so
at that moment, everything is fantastic.
Right.
You're in love, you got engaged, getting married, 5, 10, 15 years down the line, and as we know, life happens.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
So-
Interesting. Folks, if you're just tuning in, Andy here with
time
South
is it?
Florida. We are here, and the ladies have to go to court. So
Yes, I have to go to
we're
court.
here with Hasbun and Mendoza. We're here
Hello,
with
Jessica. She says, I'm learning a lot from
Michelle
your broadcast.
and
Thank
Marva.
you.
We do this every single week. We come to you live from their offices here in Kendall. And we're out of questions today, and you have to run to court.
Yes.
So we're gonna ask you guys to tune in next Wednesday. We're doing Wednesday or Thursday next week.
I think I have a trial on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it may have to
We're
be on
switching
Thursday.
back. We're switching back to
Israel
Thursday
is on
next
joint.
week.
Right.
Absolutely.
We'll let you guys know.
If somebody heard this broadcast, you have some comments saying great info. As always, these ladies are fantastic. What's the best number that they can get in contact with you at?
Always call us at 305-386-2888. That's 305-386-2888. We would love to hear from you guys. Give us a call.
For any family matters, tune in. The broadcasts have been fantastic. We're going to cut it short today because they have to go to court. I got to go see some other people to do some live broadcasting
Let's
with
just
them.
say hi to a couple of people.
Here we go.
We have Maddie. Hi, Maddie.
Hey,
Maggie.
Maddie.
Hi.
Maggie.
Thank you. Odalis.
Oh, Dalis.
Israel. Hey, how are you?
Hi, guys. Good morning.
Thanks for
I
joining
know
us.
Annie was there. Israel
Annie.
joined. Hi, Israel. How are you guys?
Each week you have more and more fans.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
Amazing. What's great information. This is almost like a consultation, advice.
We would love to hear from you guys. Email us to let us know what it is that you guys have questions about. Contact us through Facebook Messenger or however you want to contact us. But it would be great to be able to hear specifically from the clients, from the people, exactly what it is that they have questions about.
And then you'll be able to address those
That's
individual
exactly right.
questions in
That's
the next
exactly right.
broadcast.
That's exactly
wow.
right.
That
That's
doesn't
exactly
get better than that.
We try.
Ladies, thank you so much. Folks, Andy here within South Florida. Thank you for the love. Thanks for tuning in. Catch us next Thursday at the 8:30 a.m. hour. And these ladies will be back with another interesting topic.
Yes.
Which I do not know about yet, but we'll keep them on. We'll keep them surprised.
And hopefully they'll send us emails
questions.
and questions.
Absolutely. If you just caught us now, tune in from the beginning. Good stuff. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, guys. Have a good day.
Have a great day.
Bye.